So how do you view, and from my perspective, it seems like Celestia is not really trying to like compete directly with Cosmos. It's rather maybe an addition or an extension to Cosmos. Same for Ethereum probably. So how do you view the end game for Cosmos, and how does Celestia fit into that? And maybe if you also have some comments on Ethereum. I don't know if you guys are very up to date and following everything that's happening in the Ethereum world with also their roll-up roadmap. I guess you might be up to date there. So how do you view the end games for both Cosmos and Ethereum, and how does Celestia fit into that?
Again, great question. So I think it's worth going back to sort of the vision of Cosmos, which is this internet of blockchains, that you want to make it so that anyone can build their own blockchain, any community can spin up their own community computer. And you also want to make it so that they can connect those blockchains together in a secure way, so that they're not just isolated, right? If those blockchains are living on their own, that's not very useful in the long term. So you want all these blockchains to be able to talk to each other. And that's an extremely powerful vision. And I think that is the end game for Web3 is that kind of architecture. And Cosmos has done a ton to get there. Obviously, inventing Tendermint, which is probably the de facto most secure sort of like consensus software, as well as the Cosmos SDK, which helps you build your own app chain, and also IBC and interchain standards that make it so that you can actually connect those chains together. So Cosmos has gone from 0 to 1 on that vision, right? Now we have like over 50 chains if you go to what is it called?
Map of zones. Map of zones.
Yeah, map of zones. Yeah, you're going to see 50 chains. And you're going to see all the connections. You're going to see all this value flowing between those chains, and like it's working and it's real and it's growing exponentially. Like, and people who are at Cosmoverse would have observed that and seen that. It's like an open secret, but somehow like people are not really aware of how amazing the ecosystem is right now. However, all of that is great, and the amount of achievement that has, on an engineering level and everything is just like unbelievable. It is one of the most important things I think that's happened in the space since Ethereum itself. But the long term, right, is like, and I think of this in terms of like the original internet. If you look at the evolution of the internet, it started out as kind of like, just people at home hacking away. They might run their own server, and it's all for nerds and very small scale, right? Then at a certain point, there were only like 50 servers on the internet. But no one could have predicted the exponential growth of the internet. And now you literally hundreds of millions of websites and billions of users on the internet, right? And I think that Web3 is going to go the same way. And so I think of, like, when you look at map of zones today, it's very much like ARPANET back in the day, where it's like, just a handful of blockchains, but where we're going is we're going to have millions of blockchains in the future. And so, and this is the core problem, is that there are some sort of features that are lacking in the current Cosmos architecture that we need to achieve in order to get to that end game vision where there's millions of blockchains. And the two main ones are basically that, first of all, it's still actually quite expensive and difficult to deploy your own blockchain. And that's because you actually, even though Cosmos gives you all the software, you have to build your own consensus network from scratch. So you have to get a bunch of validators, you have to issue a proof of stake token. And that's the only way to actually launch a new blockchain today. The other problem is that you don't get shared security. So all these chains have their own isolated pools of security. And then when they want to interoperate with each other, they have to actually trust that the other chain is secure. And that might work when there's only like a handful of chains, like the Cosmos Hub and Osmosis and the other like major Cosmos projects. But as you start to get into this much longer tail, kind of much bigger, more diverse internet of blockchains, that's not going to work, because not every chain is going to be that secure. And so really, that will really hamper and limit the utility of this whole vision. So Celestia is, and a modular blockchain architecture solves those two problems and will actually enable us to launch blockchains super, super easily without having to create a new consensus network from scratch, because that's like Celestia kind of acts as this universal consensus network that anyone can plug into. And on top of that, it provides this shared security. So rather than having to create your own pool of security on your own, you inherit security from Celestia, and you can connect with other blockchains securely because you kind of share this common base layer. So where Celestia fits in this, it's not competitive. It is providing a service. It's almost like like an app chain in a sense, but its application is just consensus and data availability for other chains to build and use and tap into. So that's how Celestia fits into Cosmos.
Yeah.